A mere 5 months before the PlayStation 2 released, Kingsley's Adventure came out after an entire 3.5 years of development. The game stars a young fox named Kingsley, but he wasn't always a fox. Today we are going to delve into Kingsley's Adventure's development, which started all those years back in 1996. Kingsley came out in a time when gaming was extremely limited. The game utilised having fog in every larger section of the game to help ease the frame rate, but just as how Kingsley was originally a rabbit, Kingsley's Adventure originally didn't have fog at all. Actually, it wasn't even called Kingsley's Adventure. The original name of the game was Bad Custard, as the game was planned to be an RPG taking inspiration from The Legend of Zelda. However, since the game's entire concept changed various times, the completed product lacked a lot of the features the team originally planned and even entire sections of the game that had been built. Although old gamers, as well as the developers behind the game, still remember Kingsley as a charming yet difficult little adventure. So on that note, let's take a look into what went on behind the scenes of 1999's Psygnosis Classic. Back in 1999, to advertise the game, some promotional art was released, and even official high-quality renders of several of the game's characters, including Kingsley. Promo art is cool and all, but you know what's even better? Concept art, duh. An artist on the game released the art he did on his website. We're surprised he kept it after all these years, and even more surprised how faithful the models are to his drawings. Several of the characters in this art go entirely unused in the finished product, with remnants to most not existing anywhere. For one, Erica was meant to be Kingsley's sidekick travelling along the journey with him, but he was cut when the switch between Rabbit and Fox occurred. Even the giant mole transformed into a mere statue in the final. Most others were scrapped or likely never modelled. Reaching out to the developers at Psygnosis and Studio Camden brought a large number of new details to us that has never publicly been known. Here are some messages we exchanged. Since the project had very little marketing, any form of merchandise for the game is very hard to come by. However, there is a calendar, as well as a poster that was made to advertise the game back in the day. Here is even one of the stickers the developers put around London. A handful of screenshots were taken from an early build of Kingsley at the start of 1999, with some very noticeable skybox, lighting, character placement, and other massive changes. There's a piece of music that plays when during the game over screen in a cutscene. Sadly, this tune is not extractable by itself. Until now. Alistair Lindsay, the game's composer, gave us 13 original music files for the game, one of which contained a track titled Reprise. This is the full, extended game over theme by itself. Let's listen. Now that we're speaking of music, there are even 3 unused tracks hidden within the game's music files. They were each for an unused boss in the game that would have taken place in an additional dungeon. One boss even got removed very close from release. Here's a snippet of each. The character model of Sylvester is actually in the game, in the Alphaza dungeon, along with some other very important models we will get to. Sylvester was going to be a dark knight that would have taken place in a new location not present in the final game, and when defeated, would have turned into Waldo, which he just happens to be placed right next to Sylvester in the dungeon cage here. His name would have been Sir Waldo, as all the warriors have Sir in their name. They were removed because after solidifying the new vision of the game, they didn't have all that much time in making new dungeons, characters, and villages, which led to them cutting Waldo and Sylvester. Besides these characters, the original model for Kingsley as a bunny is next up in the dungeon. Here is the Rabbit King, formerly known as Kingsley, for a large amount of the game's development. The King and Queen are also rabbits in the final game, and the castle is even called Carrot Castle, with many statues of carrots. The switch from rabbit to fox was actually a late design in the development of the game. Moving on, the whole concept of Kingsley being a bunny actually ties into the fridge that's next to the bunny model. A piece of celery and a carrot are hiding in the fridge to shelter from Kingsley, when he was a rabbit that is. Turning back to the concept art, this white bear, logically speaking, was likely either the boss Sven or Crab, as it stated he's a knight, but on the other hand, Waldo was originally named Sir Sigmund, and had a slightly different design. This just goes to show the bigger plans they had for the game if they had a larger budget. Recently, 3 minutes of beta footage from March 1999 has come forward, oddly stating a release date of March 26, even though the game released 6 months later in September. This footage has extremely massive changes, even more so than the early screenshots. Let's compare the beta and final. Furthermore, Gustav's dungeon and even model changed heavily during the development. In the beta footage, a large section of his dungeon is present that is entirely absent in the release, as well as some changes to Gustav himself. You can even see the cheat codes the developers would use to test the game in this footage when heavily slowed down. At the end of the day, Kingsley left fans with an enjoyable experience overall, as it practically ended the PS1 era of games. 3D platformers soon died off in the early 2000s, only to be on the rise again in recent years. We hope you have enjoyed this look into what went on behind the scenes of Kingsley's adventure, and we thank the developers for being cooperative and giving their info on the game. On a final note, Kingsley still admits charming and fun gameplay, so if you haven't ever had the chance to enjoy the game, we hope today can convince you to experience Kingsley yourself.